Hello there, and welcome to my YouTube. My name's Chris, and today we're going to take a flight along the coast. Just waiting for my man Dave to open up the hangar and get the aircraft out. We're up at Bolt Head Airfield, which was the former RAF Bolt Head, which was operational between 1941 and 1945. And it was from here that the air sea rescue squadrons used to fly from, being that this airfield is extremely close to the sea. It was an ideal spot to have an air sea rescue squadron, and they were made up of they had Spitfires, Lysander, and they had the Walrus, and of course they had the RAF Air Sea Rescue Launches, which were based down in Salcombe Harbour. So between the whole department, they could organise an air sea rescue to go from here. And you can see that flying along the cliffs, looking back towards the former RAF Bolt Head Airfield, which was on this flat plateau of land just above Salcombe town, just there in the background, it was an ideal position to be based, because as soon as the aircraft got into distress, they would receive a radio call, and then the aircraft would be sent out. Usually a Spitfire would be sent out first to try and locate the pilot. Once the pilot was located, they would then call back with a position, and they would either then activate the air sea rescue launches from the harbour, and together with the Walrus, they would fly out. They'd both fly out and try and locate and pick up the pilot. Very often the Walrus may well land on the sea. It's quite rough sometimes, and they would have difficulty taking off again. So there are many occasions and reports when the air sea rescue launches had to tow the Walrus back in, or the Walrus had to motor back in under its own steam to get back into Salcombe Harbour. But here we're just flying across the entrance to Salcombe Harbour, where all the activity was. So we had the airfield, the aerodrome on the left, and straight ahead is Salcombe Harbour, where the air sea rescue launches were moored up. I hope you find it interesting. I've tried to put a compilation together of all sorts of different clips, and fingers crossed you enjoy it, and sit tight and see what you think. Let me know in the comments below. And just looking down on Salcombe town, quite a lot of activity went on here during the war, and they suffered quite a lot of casualties, sadly. But sit tight, here we go, let's see what's in the film.
High-speed launches in the harbours, reconnaissance aircraft in the coastal aerodromes. The efficiency of this service depends upon the watch kept in coastal areas by the Observer Corps, the Army sentries, the gun crews and the coastguards. Even civilians out for a walk along the cliffs can help by their constant vigilance. Above all, speed is vital.
Naval 3, please.
Duty staff officer. 1. Parachute 180 Folkestone, 8 miles. Right. Standby operations room, please.
Standby operations room, duty crash officer speaking.
HSL 122 146, Nesby 24, 180 Folkestone, 8 miles. Parachute reported.
Operations room calling. Operations room calling. HSL 122 146 and Nesby 24. Prepare to put to sea immediately. Over.
I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. We have before us an ordeal of the most grievous kind. We have before us many, many long months of struggle and of suffering. You ask, what is our policy? I will say, it is to wage war by sea, land, and air, with all our might, with all the strength that God can give us, to wage war against a monstrous tyranny never surpassed in the dark and lamentable catalogue of human crime. That is our policy. To ask, What is our aim? I can answer in one word: victory. Victory at all costs. Victory in spite of all terror. Victory however long and hard the road may be. For without victory there is no survival.
Now we are the masters of our fate. That the task which has been set us is not above our strength. That its pangs and toils are not beyond our endurance. As long as we have faith in our cause and an unconquerable willpower.
HSL 102 is the only known survivor of the 100 class air sea rescue vessels, which were launched back in 1936. Originally, they had 3 Napier Sea Line engines in, producing around about a total of 1,500 horsepower. They were 64 feet long and could obtain a top speed of around about 40 knots. These craft were replaced partway through the Second World War by the Type 2, which became known as the Whaleback. So this is one of the this is the only surviving example of this type, which is up here in Portsmouth, and it's just going on a day out. And some of the lads here are doing a reenactment of an exercise on the craft, and they'll take it out into out to sea for the day, and then return a bit later on. But this is a very, very unique, completely unique air sea rescue launch, still running today, fully restored. It doesn't actually have the Napier Sea Line engines anymore, but they've been replaced by 3 Cummins diesel engines, which nevertheless still produce a fair turn of speed and enable this craft to take people on charter trips out for the day.
The apparently overwhelming might of the enemy. We stood all alone a year ago, and to many countries it seemed that our account was closed. We were finished. All this tradition of ours, our school history, our songs, this part of the history of our country, all were gone and finished and liquidated. Very different.
And here we're going to take a look at the dear old Walrus, which was designed by the Spitfire designer R.J. Mitchell and first flew back in 1933. This aircraft and these types of aircraft were based for long periods of time at RAF Bolt Head, and were often seen flying around, landing both in Salcombe Harbour and over in Hope Cove, over in the bay. It was powered by a 775 horsepower Bristol Pegasus engine, which gave it around about a cruise speed of 135 miles per hour and with a range of about 400 miles. Some of these aircraft, interestingly, were metal hulled, and some were made of timber. But they did sterling service and rescued many pilots and aircrew from the English Channel.
That our account was closed. We were finished. All this tradition of ours, our school history, our songs, this part of the history of our country, all were gone and finished and liquidated. Very different is the mood today. Britain, other nations thought had drawn the sponge across her slate. But instead our country stood in the gap. There was no flinching, no thought of giving in. And by what seemed almost a miracle to those outside these islands, though we ourselves never doubted it, we now find ourselves in a position where I say we can be sure that we have only to persevere to conquer.
On water, and is designed especially for naval reconnaissance and fleet spotting operations from cruisers or aircraft carriers. The very successful test over.
Well, thanks for sticking with me this long, and hopefully you found it interesting. It would be really charming if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel, as we're trying to push the subscribers up now over 1,000, and I look forward very much to seeing you on the next film. Take the greatest of care, and I'll say cheerio for now. All the very best.
Shrimps and rice, they're very nice.